I just had, I think, was the most meaningful experience I had today. I was distributing books and I saw this one gentleman sitting by himself in the park. I just had a long stretch, a lot of people not taking any books. And closer to me were a bunch of other people, but I thought, let me go approach this one gentleman further by himself first. So I approached him. He was sitting down smoking a about to smoke a cigarette. And I approached him and said, hey, I've been traveling through town to read these books in ancient meditation and philosophy, and I showed him the cover of the Black Raja Vidya. I said, are you familiar with him? He goes, oh yes, I'm very familiar. He says, I have a family member who's a Hare Krishna. He told me they have an initiated name and they're a regular member of a certain temple. And short talk, I said, can I take a seat? He said, by all means. And then he apologized. He said, I think you probably didn't realize you'd be opening a can of worms. I said, no, it's totally fine. I feel you. Because he had some emotional pain with this family member because this family member, since they'd grown up together as siblings. Krishna conscious had kind of grown disconnected towards him. But he thinks that also this sibling of his is probably also feeling pain towards him because he's seen perspectives like it's kind of painful. Like I know all about Krishna consciousness, just like And as we were talking, we were talking about relationships and stuff. And I started thinking, I think on this point I need to stop focusing on the book. Because we always want to get the book out. The first thing is the positive impression. And at this point, just talked about we do struggle with that in Krishna consciousness and become first generations, especially first generation devotees, struggle with how to maintain relationships with other family members who aren't Krishna conscious. I was validating on these points, acknowledging it, we were talking about it. So I was like, I'm not even going to dispute the book anymore. I was thinking, I'm just going to have this genuine conversation with him, listen to what he's been through and have a conversation. And on his own, he suddenly pulls a very nice donation out of his pocket, $5+ just for the Raja Vidya, and hands it to me. He said, here you go. And I said, oh, man, you didn't have to do that. And he goes, no, I want you to have it. He says, I usually don't carry cash, but I do today, I want you to have it. And I even asked him for it. And I said, well, here, how's the book? I have the book. And he said, thank you. We started talking more. He said, so what's in this book here? Why this and not any of the other? And I said, why not any of the other 60+ volumes that we have? He said, yeah, why not the Bhagavad Gita? I said, I like this one, Raja Vidya, because first, it's a readable size. Next, it's also a hardback. And 3, Prabhupada really hammers in the point here that it doesn't matter Christian, Hindu, Muslim. The point of religion is to love God. It's not okay, there's Hindu love, Christian love, Muslim love. There's not Hindu gold, Christian love, etc. There's just love. There's love of God. And that's this book in particular really hammers in. He goes, that's nice. And then we started talking more about relationships and Krishna consciousness. I started listening to what he's been through and just hearing him really ask some questions, really good questions about the philosophy, and also just talking about Krishna consciousness as a whole. We spoke for 20-some minutes or more. And at one point, we were having this really heart-to-hearts, how I grew up in Krishna consciousness, emotional parts of it for me, everything relationship-oriented. And he goes, okay, I've got a question for you. I said, yeah. He says, and it might be, how you phrase, an interesting, difficult question. He said, I'm sure I could find so much online, but you never know anything online. I said, sure, shoot. He goes, so I heard that after Prabhupada left, he didn't leave any clear number one people to take on after him. And there was 11, area gurus or something. And I kind of nodded. I said, yeah, it's zonal acharyas, we call them. He goes, yeah, and then there's some big fight, became more like a publishing thing, who could publish what. And I said, okay, it's interesting, you should ask me about that. And he goes, oh, really? I was smiling. I said, so yes, we have the zonal acharyas. I gave him a quick summary of that, okay. And there was a book thing. I said, you know how the Bible has so many different editions? He goes, yeah. I said, the same thing with the Bhagavad Gita. I said, as it is, it's the same thing with the Bhagavad Gita, as it is. I said, after Srila Prabhupada left, there was another edition of the Bhagavad Gita in 1983. I said, so it's interesting you should ask me because there are arguments on both sides, all of them very valid made. And I told him I'm trying to give both equally. But the ultimate point is some devotees get those second edition books and some of them get the first edition books. I told him it's interesting you should ask me because I'm kind of in the minority. I get the original books as they're called. And it means also I get them from a different publishing arm, the main publishing arm within ISKCON, within the Hare Krishna world. He goes, okay. And I said, but it really also brings us back to what is the mood of Krishna consciousness. Because The whole point is we can very intensely disagree with people, as you might find with things online. But at the same time, it's also about how can we disagree with somebody but do it in a manner that is aspiring to be a gentleman. How can we disagree with somebody in a way that even if we staunchly disagree with them, how can we still be proper mood and okay, go, I might disagree with this person, but I know that Krishna loves them and Krishna values their service, just as Krishna values my service, so I gotta appreciate this person. So I told him I also used to get really fired up about these things. Because he was like, I said, it's interesting you should ask me. It's a very hot topic. But at a certain point, I realized that rather than having an online argument or just arguing with somebody about these things, I'd much better utilize my time than just going out there and distribute the books that are important to me to preserve them and get them out there in the world. And I said, that for me, it's for the mood of Krishna consciousness. It's just having that mood of how do we disagree staunchly, but still try to act as ladies and gentlemen and have nice etiquette in our mood, realizing that Krishna still loves us as the person, like Krishna loves me, and how do we act in a way that would please Srila Prabhupada. And he knew so much about Krishna consciousness already. It was just so interesting. He said, it's really interesting hearing these things from you, because like when I told him about you don't have to take the book, he goes, no, I'm glad that you're approaching me with the book. I wanted someone to be more personal with me. And just like, rather than kind of treat me like, treat me more gently and like introduce it to me more in a gentle way. I'm glad you're with me. Give me the book. I want to give you the Lakshmi. I'm glad you had these questions. He also really appreciated how I explained it to him. And it was just so precious to me how this whole thing started. Starting about relationships. He had some pain in his relationship with a devotee family member, sibling. And he's an adult now. But then he really enjoyed our conversations. And he asked if we could take a picture together. I said, totally, sure. And he took a picture of us with him holding the book, and he kept it, and I let him keep it. I'm not going to share for his privacy. But it was such a sweet interaction about relationships from the get-go, and this philosophy of Krishna consciousness, of how we have proper moods. That even when we disagree with somebody, how can we still be so gentle with them? It's such a purifying service, this book distribution. We never know who we're going to run into, or what we're going to learn from the other person. It's blissful. And onwards we go. Hare Krishna.